All right, all right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Real Estate Investing for Retirement podcast. I am your host, Christopher Story. So today our guest is Robin Carriger of the DFW REI Club. Say what's up, Robin.
Hey, what's going on?
So Robin is a seasoned wholesaler, a buy and hold investor, and he runs the DFW REI Club right here in Dallas, Fort Worth. And we have him on today, so I wanted to, sit down with him, talk, kind of go over, just his experience, and of course, talk about different strategies, mindset, and some good, solid investing advice. Robin's someone that I've known for some time now. He's helped us with our real estate investing, and of course, I think he can bring some great value to everybody that's listening. So let's start there. So, Robin, if you want to introduce yourself, tell us how you got started, and tell us a little about you.
Yeah, wow, I'm a software engineer according to my education, right? And I've been a software engineer for a few decades, and I kind of in the aughts, I guess 2002, 2003 timeframe, there were quite a few layoffs in the company that I was working for at the time, and I kind of saw my face on a lot of the bodies that were walking out the door, and went, "Oh, okay. I don't want to wait around and be just like one of those ducks in the arcade, right, where you're like shooting, ba-ping, ba-ping, and you're." I was like, okay, I don't want to be one of those guys. I was about 40-ish years old at the time, and I was like, okay, I got to learn to do something else here, just in case I am the guy that gets the next little notice that I'm going to be sent packing, right? So, anyway, so that's what kind of motivated me initially to start looking into other opportunities. And, one thing led to another. We saw some infomercials on TV, went to one of those free evening things, with a national guru, and it was kind of cheesy, honestly, their presentation was a little cheesy. But I overlooked it because I really did want an answer. And I reasoned that even though the presentation is a little cheesy here, I want to go ahead and do it anyway, and I did. I was really glad that I did too, because I started learning about wholesaling and about, everything to do with real estate investing. The only thing I knew at the time is that I had bought my own house. That's all I knew. So, and we started doing what we were trained to do, sending out postcards, putting out signs, different kinds of marketing. And lo and behold, amazingly, when you start to market your business, you get calls. I thought it was so awesome. The first call that I ever got, right? I was like, wow, that is so cool.
Do you remember that
I
first
do.
call?
I do. I do. And we got some very interesting calls. I wish I had been able to record the calls back then. I would be playing them back now, mostly for entertainment value.
Did you get some pretty wild ones in the beginning?
Oh my gosh. Yes. It's bizarre. They were just all over the place. Some that says, "You guys are just scum. I can't believe you would take advantage of me," and all that jazz. That was very interesting and unexpected. But some of the folks really did need help, and that's really what the business is about, is trying to help people. That's what life is about to me, is helping people. And we got a call from a guy over on the north side of Fort Worth. He had a stack of postcards. We had sent him a postcard, and he had a stack of postcards. And he starts out with, "Hey man, you want to buy my house? If you don't want to buy it, it's okay. I got a stack of postcards." And I was like, no. Yeah, I am interested in buying. Let me look at it a little bit here. And long story short, we ended up buying that house. It got condemned while we owned it. We eventually wholesaled it, but we bought it right. We bought it for $5,000. Right. Yeah.
You still have that one?
We do not.
No.
We wholesaled it. We were,
That's right.
we were building cash, as we were beginning. And that's the thing. Wholesaling is a great way to enter the business, because you can build up some nice cash. There's lots of buyers out there. There's lots of money in the world. Build up some nice cash, and then start putting it into other stuff like down payments on loans for rentals, which is exactly what we did. And we started doing some fix and flip rehabs too. For us, it's always been putting as much, everything else that we do a lot of stuff in real estate, it all goes back into the rentals, right? Because that's, we read a Kiyosaki book. The first one I read was not Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but it was called Retire Young, Retire Rich, I think is what it was called.
Yep.
And a lot of details to a story of how I ultimately did get laid off from my IT career, where I was working at the time. And, I was kind of bummed. I went to, look at, actually, before I got laid off, I got kind of bummed one time and I went to a bookstore and there was this book and I picked it up because I thought it was a laugh, sure, retire young, retire rich, ha ha ha, right? I picked it up just to kind of, because I was kind of bummed out. I was like, I need to get a little levity in my life here, right? But it was a serious book. I'd never heard of Robert Kiyosaki before, right? And so I read it. 37 pages later, into right there, standing in the bookstore, I couldn't put it down, so I went and bought it, blah blah blah, and I was just, I was amazed at at this book. And how did he know? How did this guy know me so well? How did Robert Kiyosaki know me? Well, of course, he didn't know me, but I guess there was enough qualities and characteristics of my life that were enough like so many other people
Hmm.
that, as I read, I was like, wow, I had no idea. I was the guy that, boy, my dad, boy, work hard, get good grades, good to get an education. Later in life, you'll go to work for somebody for 40 years, hope you'll get a pension, and then you'll retire on Social Security and whatever. That was essentially my training. Love my parents. Great training.
That's a lot of people's training too, though.
That's right.
That's not just you. That was
Apparently,
yeah.
with Kiyosaki knew that, right? By the time, literally, it was emotional for me. As I got toward the end of that book, I was crying.
Yeah.
Seriously, I'm reading the book and I'm like, oh, you know, it was very emotional, and I was like, wow, we have to do this, and we did do it. I realized that there was a way to make my retirement happen without having to, and even to this day, people don't realize. I mean, nothing against 401k. I mean, I have a 401k,
Yeah.
right? And companies match, a certain amount, and that's all great and good. But the question of, well, how much money do you need to retire, right? Well, 401k in my case, when I'm done with my company, they're going to stop matching, of course, right? And I'm going to have whatever lump sum there is, and then you start doing the math of, well, okay, let's see, I've got that many dollars, and okay, our lifestyle is we've been living on this much income, yeah, I should be able to live another 5 years and be good, right? If that's all I had,
Yeah.
right? And you go, wait a minute, let's see, I'm turning 60 this year, 5 years. Dang, I really had hoped to live longer than 65, or whatever age.
The math isn't adding up.
You don't
Like,
want
this
that,
isn't
right?
adding up.
You want income generating assets, which is essentially what I learned from Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
You need real estate, you need paper assets or whatever, but you need something that's passive. And of course, the lesson that he teaches is that, once your passive income exceeds your living expenses, you are financially independent,
Yeah. Yeah.
I ate that stuff up, I'm just, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and now I'm just in running our club, the DFW club. That's just essentially the main thing we try to communicate. We talk about lots of stuff, but it all feeds back to that.
Let me
you
ask
know.
this. So when you read the book, you go through everything, and did you have to? Because I know, like, you and your wife Cindy, you guys work together hand in hand. Was she on board immediately when she's like, "Honey, this is
She
great"?
actually
Or
was. She actually was. I'm so blessed. I mean, I don't even get me started on Cindy and how awesome she is.
Yeah.
But absolutely, she was on board. In fact, she's the one that showed me the guru infomercial thing that I saw on TV and found out that he was coming, or somebody from his organization was coming to do a free evening or whatever. And she actually didn't join me at that free evening, but she showed me whatever it was. She might have had to do something with the kids. I don't know what made her not be able to go, but yeah, I went ahead and went and signed up and paid the $1,800 for whatever it was, and then paid that got me to a 3-day drink from the fire hose, seminar, right? And that was pretty cool, right? $1,800. Of course, what I did not know is that the 3-day, I was going to learn how to ask for credit limit increases on credit cards. Note the S on the end of credit cards, right? So that I could afford to then sign up and pay for the $18,000 uh, thing that they really wanted to sell me, right? Which was 3 or 4 classes, that offered all over the country, plus 4 days of one of their mentors coming to my area, and all that, and it's a good program. And I'm actually very glad still in retrospect. There's so many people out there that lament having spent big bunches of money on gurus and whatnot. I absolutely do not,
Yeah.
but it's kind of I have a little twist on it though, right? My twist on it is that it wasn't so much, the quality or lack thereof, or however you want to judge, what they offered in those classes and the mentor and all that. I'm just going to say that that's all fine, right? Whatever that was for us, that was fine. But what I like about it is, and this may sound weird, not everybody's like me, but paying essentially between the 1,800 and 18,000, essentially 20 grand for real estate education. I was not all in with all of our finances at the time, but I was about 2/3 all in with that. We had about 30 grand to our name at that time, even though I'd been a software engineer for a long time, blah, blah. If you don't know how to live on a budget and you don't have a goal and you're not saving, et cetera, but we'd saved a little bit, right? We saved enough to pay for that, for me, when I put that much money out, and Cindy could, if there was only a camera, on me back then, you know, it was tough, but I did it. And they offer, here's the thing, here's the clincher. They give you a money back guarantee. You can come to the first day of the 3-day. And if you don't like it, they'll give you your full refund back, blah, blah. And I remember going to that first day and then going home that night. And I was like, I don't know. Yeah, it was good, but I don't know. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh, should I do it? Should I not? Should I do it? Should I not? And we stuck with it. And that was one of the best decisions of our lives, was to stick with it.
And that
in retrospect,
that $1,800 turned to a lot more.
we were way up
Yeah.
on our first deal, the one that I mentioned earlier, that first one. After everything was said and done, we wholesaled it. We ended up netting, I think, about $11,500 or something like that.
Yeah.
The sales price was like 17 something, but after all the details and such, we earned about 11.5 or something like that on that deal.
Man.
But the next one was even better.
Yeah.
The next one we netted like 29,000 ish. So first 2 deals,
So
we're over 40 grand.
as a wholesaler, when you were wholesaling, what was, I know we kind of talked about this before, what was one of your best deals that you made the most on as far as wholesaling?
So I'm really not, there are many who have done better than me on that, but the 29 that's the best deal.
Yeah.
But what was helpful to us is it was one of the earliest deals in our, so I tell people sometimes, if I had not done the $20,000 thing, see, the thing with that, what motivated me there was like, oh my gosh, now I'm in. Okay. After I did the floundering thing, like, okay, should I take them up on the money back guarantee thing and all that? I was like, no, I'm going to stick with it. When I was finally committed to that, and there's no more refund possibility, blah, blah. I was like, I am going to get at least my 20 grand back.
Right.
Okay. Oh my gosh. This was a huge leap of faith. Huge. And here's the thing with leap of faith. I mean, imagine yourself, I don't know, you can see memes on the internet, that are like this, right? But imagine yourself running off a cliff, or running off a building, and there's another building or another cliff just, a little bit of ways, right? But if you miss, you're like, it's like 1,000 feet down, right? Here I am. I took a leap of faith, that was like big enough to get me over that next hump, right? And here's the thing, there's momentum. When you take a leap, just continuing with the analogy, you take a leap, you don't just stop on a dime when you're done with that, right? So when we had 2 deals, of course, 11.5 and 29 grand on the first 2 deals, you go, I'm kind of liking this, I don't think I want to stop this. I
want more.
I think I'll continue to do this for a little
give me some
while.
more.
Yeah. And, we ended up doing lots more deals even that first year and even more the next year, and the rest is history, as they say.
One thing I remember that you've mentioned before was, as a wholesaler, and when you started, because you used to actually in the beginning you were going to the club, right?
Yeah.
The club that you now run, you essentially were,
It was
or
yes. Okay. Yeah,
like when
exactly.
things like
Right.
the beginning stages of that club, right? And
That's
then,
right.
but you were always coming in. I remember you saying you always came in so the club's on Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
so you would go to the seller's house,
Yep.
get the contract signed, show up, and be like, "All right, who wants to follow me?"
Yeah.
And you would literally just, I mean,
Yeah.
get the business that way.
I
It was just
became very popular.
very
Yeah.
popular. Like you were the man to talk to. Like, hey,
Yes.
I've got something in hand versus
Yeah.
just kind of showing up like I'm here to learn. You took action. It was just something that
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of those people who went through that same program you went through, they probably if they ever heard this, they think, man, I went to that same program. And I did nothing with it.
Right.
I never got my 20,000 back or my
Right.
1,800 back or whatever. So that's something that you see a lot of. I know I see a lot of that too. You don't see people take that action. They just kind of they learn and learn and learn and learn, but they
Yeah.
don't do it.
Yeah.
And so
That's
for
right.
you were like, I got to get my money back. I'm gonna do this,
Right.
and then
And we had that after the first couple of deals, but then at those meetings, at those newbies at Louie's cafeteria meetings way back when, uh, sometimes I would bring 2 or 3 contracts with me, right? I would schedule with the seller, okay, meetings at lunchtime. Okay, so I'll show up to the meeting about 11:30, something like that. So I'll schedule you at 9:30 and then 10:30. I'd swing by, sign the contracts, and bring the contracts directly, fresh, hot off the presses, right at the meeting.
that's
Yeah,
awesome.
and there were plenty of cash buyers back then, just like there are now, just like we are now, right? And you know, yeah, they would come around. It's kind of funny, folks would come around and say, "Hey, Robin, I'll pay more than the other guy," you know. But yeah, it was great, And then we even started even that first year, toward the latter part of the year, we started buying rentals even,
So
So
that was my next question too. Was when so you're wholesaling. At what point did you kind of go, okay, not stop wholesaling, but go, okay, you know what? I'm gonna hold on to a few of these. Like, how long did that take before you went from wholesaling these deals to, you know what? I'm gonna hold on to a few.
right at the right that in 2004. So we got the education toward the latter part of 2003,
Hmm.
right? Not that we're not still. I'm still being educated, even now in our 19th year.
That's real estate, though. Really, to me, it's practicing. Like you
Right.
practice real estate.
That's
There's no
right.
giving up on it. You're always learning.
It's like a doctor or an attorney says, well, I've got my practice. Or, yeah, a real estate practice, exactly.
Yep.
So no, yeah, that first complete year, 2004, toward the latter part of 2004 is when we began to acquire rentals, and we still have those first couple that we got. We still have those. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So that was that was one of my other questions too. Is because we've had this discussion before. I know that for you, buying and holding is a big deal. I like to, myself and Misty, we're big buy and hold.
yeah,
We agree 100%. Some people like to wholesale, some people like to flip, some people like to notes. I remember one conversation we had was you had told someone, hey, convince me of why I should not buy and hold. So kind of give me your take on that. Like, why do you, or just kind of telling everybody that's listening, like why you prefer, why you feel like buy and hold is the better strategy as far as a long-term situation than things like note investing or any of that.
sure, I'm happy to do that. It's an age old conversation that I've had with lots of folks. There's different philosophies. I mean, before I answer that more specifically, I mean, what a great business, right? You can make money either way, right? You can do well. It's
Right.
awesome either way. Nothing. I'm not opposed to note investing at all, and have dabbled a bit in that. But I like the rentals because the note investors will typically point out that, well, you got a hassle with the tenants, right? And that's a pain. Well, yes, but you can get help with that. You can hire a property manager. I know you guys are
Hmm.
property managers, right? So
Yep.
you can get help with that. The downside for a cheap guy like me is people who are property managers tend to want to get paid. So, uh,
Most people
and,
want to be
and I
paid.
swear, no, but it's actually no, property managers like any other, I don't mind paying them at all. A fair price for a quality job
Mm.
save me time and to take that off my plate, absolutely, I would do that, and a lot of details there, not to get off track
Right.
from your question, but, uh, no, but if I own the property though, if I'm holding the rentals, I get to keep the appreciation, right?
Absolutely.
As well as the cash flow, right? And oh, by the way, the cash flow goes up, right? Well, the cash flow on a note um, does not go up, and you, as the note holder, the note investor, you do not keep. You don't get to keep the appreciation. The homeowner, your borrower, keeps that. I mean, there's a lot of things, a lot of details to discuss there. Yes, they don't have to deal with the tenants' trash and toilets, and they skip that part. And two, um, if somebody does not pay, then you can work out something with them where they move out, and then you do maybe get to take the property back. Right? There's a thought. And again, lots of details, but that's good. On the other hand, if the tenant won't work, if the borrower won't work with you, then you have to foreclose on them. And if you foreclose, and again, if they're not cooperative, they might declare bankruptcy. If they declare bankruptcy, a good bankruptcy attorney could possibly, extend that out for quite a while. Now, from what I understand from people that I know who are experienced note investors, this is a rarity,
Okay.
where you foreclose and somebody declares bankruptcy. This is not this is not the common thing. But if you're interested in investing in notes, you need to be aware that that could happen, and you need to think through what would you do and how would you handle it. Is it okay? Etc. Another thing too is notes. The average note lasts 7 years.
Before they actually
Right.
they actually refinance out, and then
Right.
you got to go place that money again.
That's right. And another and that means that really a note investor, yeah, they're investors, but it's kind of a job. Because as soon as they refinance out, and you sure you made money and you put some money in your pocket, but now whenever I do anything and I've got a bunch of money in my pocket, it sounds counterintuitive, but I'm not real happy about that. Sure, you need a certain amount of money in the bank, to operate your business and stuff, but I don't really want a bunch of money in the bank, because if I don't keep that invested, if I don't keep that working, if I'm not buying more real estate or something, then I'm essentially an investor in the US dollar. And that, in my humble opinion, sorry, Uncle Sam, but that's not a good investment,
Right.
because when they can print and create trillions out of thin air between the Treasury and the Fed anytime they want, I'm sorry, I don't want to be invested in the US dollar. I want something that's scalable and appreciates and increases the cash flow and and my equity, whatever they do. Oh, you want to increase that? Okay. That just means I'm going to make more rent and more cash flow. My values, my net worth is still going to be solid and go up, all things being equal. Right. So,
But you have something tangible you can sell
yeah.
versus no, that makes perfect sense. Doesn't that?
Another thing that a note investor might bring up too is that, well, Robin, if you keep that property and you don't sell, and I don't ever want to sell, you're eventually going to run into some serious, repairs, and that's not good, right? Like we have one of those first rentals that we bought. Let's see, is this the first one or the second? Yeah, this was the very first rental that we bought, talking 2004. Okay, this house was built in 1967. Okay, well in 2004 it was let's see, 20, 30, and plus 7, 37 years old. Well, now it's even older, right? Well, and it had cast iron pipes. Okay, cast iron pipes rust, and you have problems, and you have plumbing problems. Blah blah blah. We've already addressed it once for a certain section of the plumbing underneath the house. Well, we got to address it again for a different section of plumbing underneath the house, and it cost us $9,500 recently. Ouch!
Those are fun.
Right?
We just had one that was 20,000. Is that right, Misty?
Ouch! Yeah.
20,000. But Misty she got the insurance company to pay for the whole thing.
Well, in our case,
That's
there was
hilarious.
this wasn't a snowmageddon thing or whatever like we had back, February 2021 or something. Anyway, no, this was not related to that. This was related to its old cast iron pipes, and but I made the decision a long time ago, and it's painful at times, but I made the decision a long time ago that I'm just going to go ahead and bite the bullet in times like that. And I went into it with my eyes wide open. I'm always open to somebody else telling me, well, you're a bonehead, Robin, because you should be doing it this way. And have you thought about that? I mean, I'm always learning. But as far as I can tell, I'm willing to do that because if I have to fix enough plumbing, well, eventually I've got all new plumbing, in my
Yeah, you're good to
in my
go.
house, and I'm still cash flowing, and my equity's still increasing. I mean that property now we've owned it long enough; it's paid off completely, right? So that's kind of cool, you know.
New plumbing, paid off property.
Well,
Yeah.
which is another thing that we do, right? We put extra payments down, extra principal payments all the time on one house after another to increase our equity and ultimately pay those loans off, right?
Yeah.
So
I get it. So there's a story I want you to tell that
sure,
sticks out in my mind. You've told this before, but I think it's a good illustration of not uh, part sales, part not assuming what other people will do. You at one point you guys purchased a home uh, with 0% interest, and I know
yeah,
some people hear that. I know when I first heard that I was like, what did he do? But I know you've told that story before,
yeah.
and just talking with the seller, tell that like kind of run through that like how that happened, and kind of how you found the property, and then of course how the seller said, oh, don't got to worry about
Oh
that.
man, yeah, that's one of those things where people say that they could tell you where they were when 9/11 happened, right? Or when, if you're old like me, when the Kennedy assassination happened, because it was such a meaningful, momentous occasion, that they're like, wow, it's like frozen in time kind of thing. I'm frozen in time on that deal. I'm standing in this backyard at a house in North Richland Hills, talking with the owner, negotiating and talking about, what would he need to get out of it, right? And he brought up a number, um, and at the time that number was like 100,000. And I think at the time this house, I want to say that it was retail maybe worth 130. So he was taking a discount, and he knew he needed to because the house needed some work, etc. Well, I'm thinking 80, okay, cash. I'm thinking 80 cash here. So, but instead of telling him that, he said 100. So I said, okay, well, we might be able to make that work, if you were willing to carry back a note for that, right? Because he owned it free and clear. I knew that. And he was also a used car salesman, okay? And so he knows about notes, generally speaking, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. So you're willing to carry back a note? He said, yeah, we can do that. And I said, well, but at what interest rate? And I'll never forget. This is the big one here. He says, oh no, we won't do any of that. And
Oh man,
I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I didn't want to, I wanted to curb my enthusiasm, standing there. I'm like, okay, take it easy, Robin. You don't want to do any black backflips right here. Where you're, I'm like, just kind of, okay, I think we might be able to do something like that, blah, blah. And it turns out he had done this, I guess, with some relatives or friends of his, with some other property that he had in another state, and he was interested in, well, quite frankly, I'm trying to make excuses for him. I have no idea why he said that and why he did it that way. But
especially as a used car salesman. I mean,
I know, but I mean, I think this goes to ultimately his motivation. He had a strong motivation to get out of this house, even though he owned it free and clear.
do you remember what his reasoning was?
Yes, I do. I'm pretty sure I do know. And I haven't mentioned any names or addresses or anything like that. But I'll just say he had some family members living with him that I think it was painful for him to live with these family members. And so he wanted to create a situation for him where he could move from there and, still be paid for his house.
Right.
Right. And I did pay him 20 grand more than I would have, if it was a cash deal. Well, I'm still paying. Right. Actually, sadly, he's passed away now at this point.
He was at that time of buying. He was an older gentleman.
He was in his early 80s, but, Anyway, but yeah, he has passed away, and his heirs. Now essentially I'm paying them at this point. But yeah, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
lost my track.
At 0% interest.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly at 0%.
Yeah.
So actually, at this point, I had a conversation recently with the guy who's the executor of his estate, uh, like his son or grandson or somebody, and talking about he has some interest at potentially me paying the rest of it off in cash. But again, I think maybe he might have been also in the used car business, so he understands that he'll have to take a discount, right? I'm not
Right.
because I'm paying 0% interest here, right? I have no other motivation other than if he'll take a discount, then
Yeah.
I'll be happy to pay it off. It's only got
I think
3 years or something left on it, a little more, but
that's a prime example though, because some people step to the plate. I mean, obviously, with what we do, I mean, as investors, it's not just, there's so much more. There's the sales, there's the negotiation that goes with that. I mean, you you didn't you didn't shoot yourself in the foot, but we could sometimes shoot ourselves in the foot, and by assuming that, oh well, you know, there's no way they're going to take that. So they, someone who you may say, well, you didn't do this, you did it the right way, but someone who may be newer say, well, let's do it at 5% when the other guy is thinking zero. It's like, don't even need it. So instead, by saying that ahead of time and offering what I think we should do and not waiting for them to say, hey, this is what I want to do, let them name the price, you know,
he made two negotiation errors. He named his price,
yep.
and he didn't even his response to my question on interest rate, which some people would say I shouldn't have even asked, but I did. Being, oh no, we won't do any of that. I mean, I'm like, okay, sold, we're done. I was calm.
Right. No, I would be calling Misty as soon as I got in the car, like close the door slowly, like nothing got in there. Just, put my little briefcase or, my little padfolio up and sit down and get on the phone, wait till I turn the corner and then be like, Misty, do you know what we just did?
I
Like
know
0%.
exactly.
And yeah, and I'd make sure nobody saw that.
Yeah, I mean it's an amazing thing. Of course, this was back like 2015, right? So
Right.
we're 3.25 years ish away from paying it off completely,
Mm.
right? So I don't know if the guy is going to take a discount or what. And quite frankly, I'm not. Either way is fine with me.
Yeah. But it's definitely a good example for someone who maybe they're getting started or they've been doing it for a while. Like those things are out there. That to me I would consider a good home run, but they're not always going to get. I'm sure you probably don't have everyone's a home run. You're going to have some that are not. And
Oh
you're
yeah.
going to have some that just, it's got a little higher interest rate or whatnot, but that's not. In the end, you say this a lot too, which I 100% agree and it's great. Is you're absolutely right. Real estate's forgiving. So yeah, you may not have 0%, but on all your deals,
Right.
but the ones you come across, they're out there.
Yeah.
And that's just learning how to negotiate those right. Like you said,
Always make the offer.
always make the offer because
That's
offers are what?
Yeah, offers are free.
I love that. That's my
right.
favorite.
And you can get creative. You can make whatever you want. You
Yeah.
can make as many of them as you want. You can do whatever you want with an offer.
That's my favorite thing. That's one of my favorite lines that you've said, and for me that really clicked was when you said offers are free. And I just sat back and thought, man, that's so true. Like, why not? Like, they're gonna say no, we're not gonna do that. I mean, after that, it's just, just send them out. At that
Right.
point. So, no, that to me is just an awesome example of negotiations. Understanding negotiating, just the basics because it's fundamental. It wasn't like didn't sound like it's a huge negotiation. You just knew the fundamentals of what you need to do, how to get through it, and then they really just named it all and made it easy for you. So, did you find how'd you end up finding that one? By the way, was it a postcards?
Great question. So we had a fourplex that we had brought previously. Okay, and Cindy had the magnetic signs on her car, and she happened to have gone over to the fourplex for some reason. And this house is right down the road from the fourplex, and so the guy drove by and saw her sign on her car, went, came right back around, to talk to her. That was the initiation of the thing, right? So make,
So
make sure to have signs on your car.
yeah, I would say what Robin's saying is all you guys that are listening or that you're watching, get a sign in your car. So,
Absolutely.
something that makes you stand out.
Now, I
So
got a new car now. I need to get signs on it. I don't even have. Sitting here saying that, and I don't have signs on my car yet. I need to get off my butt and go
and get
practice what I preach here a little bit.
get
Right?
some signs. So one thing I that you talk about, and I know you talk about this within the DFWRI club. I'm a big believer in mindset as well. So I kind of wanted to go in that with you a little bit. So one thing that you mentioned this a minute ago about being invested in the U.S. dollar, um, and I agree with this too. Having too much money in the bank, you know, and I know that when I get too much money in the bank, I get a little nervous, and I've got to find somewhere to put it. Not nervous like, oh my gosh, what to do with it, but like, okay, I can't let this thing just sit. So, kind of give me your thought process on that, like not being invested in the dollar, and what it means to because most people think too, and I think a lot of people think like, oh well, so and so is a millionaire, multimillionaire, or they're rich or they're wealthy, but they don't realize that that person actually doesn't have a bunch of money in the bank. It's all tied up in assets. So kind of give me that, your thought process on, having too much money in the bank and what that looks like when that's a problem, and
Well,
why, and why it's a problem.
I, so anything that there's an overabundance of, including U.S. dollars, if there's too many of them, that means that basically it causes inflation.
Mhm.
Okay. And so whenever the government, Treasury Department, in conjunction with the Fed, decides we need to do blah, 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 and, pay for this or that or the other program, to pass out money like it's candy. And let's pause there for just a second. The government always does this with, really good sounding language, right? They're helping people, they're compassionate, they're wonderful. And if you disagree with them, you're an evil, greedy, stingy, awful person. How can you live with yourself? Kind of a thing. And I'm not talking Democrat, Republican. I'm just saying, this is
Right.
this is how it happens, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a wonderful program. And so when they create all of that, however they do it, well, one of the proposals right now as we speak is dismissing, all the student loan debt.
Right.
Right. Okay. Well, that sounds wonderful for the people that owe it, right? But what it will do, and I'll never mind the whole thing of those of us who got college degrees and paid and scrimped and worked our butts off and paid every dime of it. Never mind about our loan forgiveness or whatever that did not happen. But simply if you do that, then people are going to, in kind of a backward way, but they're going to have more money in their pockets. What are they going to do with it? People have money in their pockets. Your normal person is probably not going to invest it. They're going to spend it. They're going to spend it, and there's going to have to be the supply side of the economic equation is going to have to catch up. And so to begin with, it's going to cause prices to go up in anything. Food, used cars, real estate. Yes,
Right.
it's going to go up. So when I have dollars for too long, I'm ultimately going to be paying too much, right? If I'm sitting there and I've got, I don't know, I'll just use for easy math. I'm not saying this is what I have in the bank right now or whatever, but let's say I have $100,000 in the bank, right? Well, and everybody else probably has a bunch, maybe they've got more money in their pocket for whatever reason, whether it's student loan forgiveness or some other reason. Okay. So things are going up. Inflation is happening. Here's a little small, it's not real estate, but this is the same point. Real estate values are going up right now, and they're going to keep going up. Now miraculously the Fed, et cetera, has decided recently to raise interest rates, and we've gone from, I got a loan, I think I mentioned this to you guys earlier. I got a loan for a house that we bought in like October of 2020 at 3.0%, 30-year fixed. As an investor, investor loans are typically higher than, owner-occupant loans, right? Okay. Well, now we're talking, if I wanted to get that same loan, We're talking in the sixes, mid sixes at this point.
Yeah, we just got quoted for that.
Yeah, that is
6.
a significant difference over a year and a half ish, right? That's huge. But it's actually a good thing for the overall because it's a step. It's not the only piece of the equation, but they're trying to curb the inflation. Everybody is seeing it, and they're trying to do something about it. So um, it's basically just economics. And so if I got $100,000 and I let it sit there, and I don't go out and invest it some way somehow in real estate, where I get to keep the appreciation as it goes up. I don't care about in fact, I'm happy and thrilled with real estate inflation if I own the real estate,
Right.
right? From a certain perspective, right? I mean, that's great. That's wonderful. That's awesome. But not if I've got the money sitting in the bank and looking at it and going, I wish the price would go down. Whoop, nope, it's going up again. Oh, gosh, but maybe we'll have a correction and it'll go, no, it goes up some more.
It doesn't do it. It doesn't go down.
Now, it's not that, I suppose there could be some black swan event that's never happened since they've been tracking real estate values in the U.S. I suppose it's possible for, values to go down for real estate and stay down. But if that was to happen, number one, it would still be good if you owned real estate because basically, in my humble opinion, I don't call myself an economist but in my humble opinion, if that happened, basically the whole U.S. economy would have had to have gone down, right? And so rents would be down, everything would be down. But even then, like I said, in a scenario like that, it's still better that you own real estate relative to everything else. You're still going to be in a good position, in my opinion, right? So, but if things don't happen like that, and real estate essentially always goes up, yeah, there's a little dip here and there. Yeah, okay, yeah, I understand that. But it'll recover and it'll go higher still.
And you don't lose until you sell.
That's right.
That's it. So if it went down,
right.
You just hang on to it and keep it rolling.
I only sell when I need money to buy something and I'm about to buy something, very quickly. That's the only time that I sell.
So one question I want to ask is, because you at this moment, you're still all throughout your real estate investing career, you have been a W-2, and of course, we're real estate investing for retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So I know some people may look at that. Most people think you mentioned, and you mentioned it, and is 401k and your IRA, that kind of stuff. But real estate's such a great alternative. I'm biased because that's what we do,
mm-hmm.
but someone who kind of give me I guess kind of give everybody an idea of what's the advantages of being a W-2 employee while you're doing what you're doing versus someone like myself who I've been self-employed and we've never had that ability or advantage to be able to do that.
Right.
What's the advantages of that and what does it look like as far as, how you've been building that? I know you're getting closer and closer to that time.
Yeah, I'm within a couple of months of probably being done with it. Yeah.
But, how has that benefited you for being W-2 and not saying, hey, I'm going to just do 401k or I'm going to do, IRA.
Right. So, yeah, back when we first started, I was like, yeah, that's right. That's right, Robert Kiyosaki. I do need some assets that pay me and I need to build my passive income. And so what we've done is we've been building it. Well, first of all, we made a really good decision in our particular case, and I know everybody's different, but in our particular case, my wife Cindy was a retail manager, right? She would run like ladies' accessory shops and whatnot in the mall, Well, even before we got into real estate investing, she retired from that. And then she was very enthusiastic in the beginning, and still is, about our real estate investing, which essentially began in 2003. And so we have continued to live on my IT income, and that has allowed us to do the strategy that I have to give credit, where it's due. My old friend John Zarella used to teach this at a club that he ran in Fort Worth. And it's pretty simple. You buy a house, you buy it presumably if you bought it right, you've got a good deal, and you're going to take the cash flow from that instead of, going to Vegas or whatever. You take the cash flow and you make extra principal payments on the loan for that property. Then you buy another one. Now you're cash flowing two properties, right? And you still live the same way that you were before and saving your money even on your IT career or whatever other career you've got, right? So that you can put it down for down payment if you need to, that kind of thing. But now if you've got the second one, now you're cash flowing even more between the two, so you can make even bigger extra principal payments per month. John used to talk about buying 10 $100,000 properties over 10 years and owning all of them free and clear.
That's the snowball effect.
Yeah. Now here's the thing on that though. That's great and that's wonderful, and I learned that from him, and it's awesome, and I'm grateful to this day for that lesson. We didn't do it right away though. Okay.
Mm.
And the reason is, and I used to ask people this, and this is something for everybody to ponder, right? Is if I take my cash flow, then I'm taking money out of my pocket. As soon as I put it down for extra principal payment on that loan, that money is gone bye-bye, right? The bank's not giving that back, right? The lender, whoever the lender was, that's bye-bye. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm working on paying it off, which will increase the cash flow once it's paid off. But I got a long road to slog here to pay it off. I mean, I got a plan, but until then, I'm taking money away from myself and what else I might do with it, right? Which is, I don't know, buy more real estate, right? So just understand what you're doing, right? And if you need that money to buy more real estate, and I did in the beginning, I needed more. I wanted to buy, right? So I didn't start off with this. We were in the business for, I don't know, probably 4, 5, 6 years or something like that. I'd have to go back and check my records of when did we actually start executing on that plan, right? But we had a decent portfolio at that time, and then we started paying down the principal and doing, taking John's lessons and doing that. And it's worked great since then.
And that W-2 helped you be able to do that because you didn't actually, it wasn't do or die for you to have that money
Right.
at that time. You just, there
Yeah.
at all because you had the W-2.
Yeah.
So,
And thanks to my parents, some people might have interpreted that I kind of dissed them a little earlier in the conversation, but in this case, they, boy, go to college. Hey, that computer thing's really coming on, Rob. You need to, and so, I became a software engineer, and I've been well paid. I've been happy with the finances from that career. I mean, I'm not a doctor or a lawyer, or, making, massive amounts of money, but, I've made a good living. But to add to that, my parents also taught me financial discipline and budgeting, right? You've got a financial goal. You better, pull out a spreadsheet or something, or figure out how to plan and budget and cut back on your lifestyle. And I didn't always do that, but when I got to a certain point where I was like, we're really not saving money right now. We're not saving the money. So, and I'd really like to do that, but can we afford that? Gosh, I got to pull out the spreadsheet here and actually make categories for food, gas, electricity, blah, blah, blah.
lay it out.
All the way down. And, you end up, honestly, when we first did that, we found essentially $400 or $500 extra per month that we weren't saving simply because we categorized, and we really didn't, we're not talking about, modifying and scrimping and just going into some kind of Spartan, existence in order to do this. No, we really didn't have to modify our lifestyle much at all.
Yeah.
And yet we found $400 or $500 extra dollars per month, right? Which was exactly what we needed at the time, so people do need to do that, because, and don't talk yourself out of it, from the beginning. Don't tell yourself that I know I can't. Well, no, be disciplined, listen to the voice of experience, figure out a way to plan. Okay. And if it's not your gift in life to do that kind of thing, hopefully you married somebody or have a boyfriend, girlfriend, or somebody who's got these talents. Because if you don't have that, you're not going to go very far.
Yeah, I think that discipline is huge. That's the biggest part. I think where most people mess up is just that one word, discipline. I can go further, and focus. Discipline and focus. If they don't have that, it's so hard to go further in this game, or any other game for that matter. So, but on the W-2, the reason I bring that up is because there's a lot of people out there that's what they do. They, and then some individuals, they're fine with 401k, they're fine with IRA, but then they Then there's those individuals like yourself who are looking at the line of people and they're like, I don't. There's something else. I
that are
don't.
that are
Yeah,
walking out the door because
yeah,
they've been laid off. Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
This is. There's got to be something else. And so,
Yeah.
I guess that's it's to me that should be a good wake up call for anybody who listens to this. It goes that I don't even want to call it a wake up call, but just maybe a nudge for someone who is getting to that point where they're like, okay, I got to do something else because I think what scares me, and I don't even have a 401k because we're self employed. Misty and I have been like that for years. Is but just knowing that with real estate, you have control. You can up the rent or not up the rent. You can buy the right house or not buy the right house. Buy the right property, not buy the right property. But when you go into 401k, you have no control over that, over the stock market, over whether the government shuts you down and throws in some COVID. I won't even get into that stuff, but
Yeah.
you can't control that. But with real estate, it gives you no matter what asset class, whether that's single family, multifamily, self storage, mobile homes, we need that stuff. You have control of what you do with it. You can't control the 401k and you can't control the IRA. Yeah, you might say, well, I'm going to put it in this. But if somebody does something wrong at that company, kaputs,
Yeah.
that could be your whole retirement
There's
sitting right
there's
there.
some positives to 401ks if you work for a company that will match you.
Right.
That's kind of nice. That's like free money. As soon as you make in my company, for example, right now, what they're doing is some companies will match you dollar for dollar up to 6% or something. I think my company's matching 50% of whatever I contribute to my 401k up to 6%. So, it's not, I'm not getting rich off of it, but I'll take the free money, sure.
Yeah.
I'll do that, and yeah, I get a little bit of choice over which funds and stuff that I would like to, but no, I mean, a long, long time ago, a long time ago, I said, you know what, that whole deal is way too volatile for me, depending on whatever else that I can't control out in the world. So yeah, you know what, I'm going to do something exactly what you said, I'm going to buy properties. And if I buy it and I screw it up, at least,
It was me.
at least I screwed it up, or if I, and by the way, this is not that complicated of a business. Sure, there's a lot to learn in real estate, but it's not rocket science.
Right.
I tell people all the time, my software engineering career, let me tell you, that's a whole lot more challenging technically, and takes a whole lot more education and thought than real estate does. So I mean, that's the hard thing. The thing, in fact, whoever's listening to this, whatever you're already doing, that's probably the hard thing.
Right.
This is not.
It's not. It
And
really
it's more
isn't.
profitable.
Yeah, it really. There's so much more velocity to what you're doing. Whereas, like you said, the 401k, if you have a good W-2 job, doesn't mean. For me, it's not saying, "Hey, run out and quit." Like if you love what you
No.
do and you love your job, you can stick with it and still do this on the side, and still do really well and go further and faster and have more velocity. And get free money from the 401k while you're there. But at the same time, this is just so much faster. And like you mentioned, hey, 100,000 in the bank. I mean, it's just going to get ate up over time. We watched that in 2020.
Yeah.
So many people had that were holding on to cash, just cash. I mean, they can't buy the same stuff anymore that they could have with that 100,000. It's going to go not as far now as it would 2019. So
Now you mentioned an interesting word there in what you just said that stood out to me in my head. Do you mind if I switch roles on you here just for a second?
Switch.
You mentioned the word velocity.
Mm-hmm.
Can you?
The speed in which
right.
you can do. So like, I think because money's about velocity, right? It's how fast things can move. Because if you're investing your money, you don't want it to be slow. To me, rentals, there's certain areas that are slow and certain areas that are fast. Whereas like 401k, it's okay. Let me back up. I'll give an example. So some people may be what, but when you start getting into certain things like commercial real estate, you can, and I know you know this, but you can actually force the appreciation on something. So you've increased the speed in which that money grows. Whereas things like single family, you can still force it. There's still like you buy it, if you buy it for 100,000, but it's really worth 200 and you put in 20,000 and now, you know, well, if it's worth 200 when you fix it up, but you bought it for 100, you throw in 20, so now 120 turns to 200,000. So now you've got 80,000. That's velocity
Right.
on a very small scale. It goes really quick.
I remember a guy that taught me about the velocity of money. A couple of guys mentioned it to me. It was hard to get this through my thick skull, even though it's a pretty simple concept. Because I'm so much the kind of guy. Let's say I'm doing a fix and flip, right? I'll just pull some numbers out of the air. Let's say the price that I'm trying to get after I've got it all rehabbed, I'm selling it, and my sales price that I'm asking is 150. Let's just, for easy math. Somebody offers me, 140. Okay. Do I take it or do I go? Oh, I mean, maybe I built in a $5K discount and I would take 145. How long am I willing to wait, right, and continue to pay for the utilities, insurance, property taxes, debt service, everything else that goes along with my holding costs on that deal, just for an extra 5K? Is that, depending on the market, I know we're in a strong seller's market right now, but depending on the market, that might cost you 2-3 months. I don't know.
Right.
Because the longer you have something listed, the people start to go, that's been on the market a long time. There must be something wrong with that property or whatever, right? So but if you just say, okay, I'll take that. That's one of my first offers and it's close enough. I'll take it and move on to the next fix and flip or the next rental or whatever. Put some money in my pocket now. Cycle the cash. The quicker you can cycle the cash, you will make more money, because that's a velocity question, right? And that's just one example. I mean, there's other examples we could use.
How fast it moves. And
yeah,
the normal retirement that we're taught doesn't move that fast.
No.
It just doesn't.
The stuff that I talked about, making extra principal payments, that's acceleration. That's velocity as well, right?
Yeah. There's so many ways. There's so many different ways of velocity can happen. Whether instant equity, that's my favorite. Is that it? Because we don't fix and flip. So for us, it's that instant equity. Appreciation,
tax benefits, raising the rent, increased cash flow, lots of stuff.
I love me some raising the rent. Isn't that right, Misty? My wife's in here with me. See, I love raising the rent, not in a bad way, like slumlord raising the rent. But if you find something that's $300 under market rent, and you can get it up an extra $250, bring it up right under that mark.
Yeah.
So they're happy. The tenant's happy, and then of course, you're happy too. But I love me some raising the rent. So Misty. So let me do this. So I want a couple of last questions for you. So advice. So, you, I know, have taught numerous people over the years that have come through the club. What's something that you feel like would be one of the biggest roadblocks for people? Because I'm sure you've had people come in who, which by the way, guys, I got to say, on the DFW REI Club, if you guys ever go, I encourage you to go. I know they do Zoom as well, so you don't have to be there, but go. They do a good job of networking. And of course, it's not anything like he said, where you're paying $1,800 to be in a 3-day course. It's not like that. I mean, you come in and it's, $20 or whatever to meet with everybody, or you can, but you're not going to kill your wallet doing it, but you can learn a lot of the same stuff with, Robin and the club that you would learn from some big guru that charge you thousands and thousands of dollars. So, and then of course he knows what he's talking about, but I wanted to ask about like roadblocks, because I know Misty and I see that. I know you see that. People come in and they go, man, they start and then they don't really start. Like they do it, but then they don't actually take any action. What do you feel like is one of the biggest roadblocks for someone who comes in and they're learning everything and they don't take action? It might be 2 years before they do anything.
There's a few different roadblocks. I mean, I could talk about that for a while.
A lot.
I'll throw a few out, right? And if you want me to go deeper with any of these,
okay,
let me know.
Yeah.
People, probably the number one reason that people don't even bother to even think about becoming a real estate investor, even though they might think in their mind that they'd love to be one, is they think that you have to have lots and lots of money to be a real estate investor. When it turns out, the Carlton Sheets and any other guy that you might have seen on a late night infomercial at some point, that talks about no money down and all that, instead of dismissing them, in a word, they're right. You can get into real estate with very little money, right? The number one thing is you have to find the good deals, right? But money, there's lots of money in the world. That's one barrier. Now, another barrier is people come, they start to learn, and they realize, and I hate to say this, I don't mean to say this in a pejorative way at all, because, nothing says you have to be a real estate investor, but people come and they learn that, oh, wow, I thought this was going to be something easier than this, but gosh, this takes work too.
Yeah, they came in thinking it's all like it's the what is it? It looks all sexy and oh man, I'm gonna you see the
Yeah.
guy on Instagram with the flashy car and he's got the I'm a real estate investor. That's one thing I don't do on my social media. We're not posting like a bunch of crazy stuff, like
Right.
real. It's actual like it's the real deal. That's what I love about what Andrew did. If you guys,
Yeah.
Andrew Postelli kind of showed his numbers and like it's absolutely right. Like it's not what people think.
Yeah.
I mean, some of those people they make it look bigger than what it is, but it's not as sexy as they think, right? So they do what? They just kind of
I
fall
mean,
off.
it is at some point,
Right.
I mean, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I
Yeah.
got so many stories, and I love it. I mean, life is so good to me as a real estate investor. I mean, it's humbling.
Right.
It's humbling. It's so good. I mean, I truly mean that. It's like, wow, how in the world, I mean, I'm just blessed by God is the way I look at it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, I worked hard.
But that's the part that
But
you have. You put
yeah,
the hard work in.
yeah,
It's not just
yeah.
you didn't just walk into this thing and it's like, ooh, now I'm here.
Did
You
not
had to,
just fall on my head. No.
yeah, you had to kiss a few pigs and do a few things, and then you're like, okay, now it's paid
Yeah.
off.
But people get in and they realize, oh, wow, okay. They're not willing to do one or two things. They're not willing to change their lifestyle enough to work hard enough to achieve it, or they're risk averse and they, yeah, it's $20 for a DFW REI club meeting, but and they can afford that, but when they realize that, oh wow, we get into some really big numbers here when we start talking about buying real estate and whatnot, right? And even investing something into trying to find the deals, which is the big challenge, yeah, it may take you a few marketing dollars and you may have to, go to Starbucks a few times less than you are now. You are going to have to change the way you live in order to achieve the goal that, that you want in real estate. Yeah, it is not going to fall on your head, But I mean, there's so much good news, But no, people get in and they realize, they're not willing to pay that price, which is,
Right.
no judgment at all, no problem, right? But if you're not willing to pay the price, and I don't mean the money, I mean the work, the risk, the effort, the focus, keep on showing up,
Yep.
right? Just keep on trying. I mean, I think you and I share the quality of, failure is not an option, right?
Yep.
They're going to, I'm not going to succeed, anymore in this life when they bury me 6 foot under, right?
Yeah, that's it. I hope you did it all by then.
That's right, right.
Yeah.
But until then, I've got a program, I've got a plan. I am kicking butt and taking names, and I'm trying to help as many other people as I can along the journey. That's the real goal.
I think that's a big. That's another one too. Is like that's really what it is about. I know that we think like buy and hold, investing, things like that. Some people, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who have experienced slumlords. They just don't take care of their stuff. But really, we should be as investors taking care of our things. That's why that's why that guy in Dallas years ago got shut down. I don't remember the exact timing, but he got shut down for not taking care of his properties, and he should have been taking care of them, right? We're supposed to help give a good, decent place for someone to live.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So us taking that risk, we get to, we get paid to take that risk so they can have a place to live and not have to deal with, busted pipes or whatever else. So But yeah, no, but roadblocks, man. I think you're absolutely right. Is that they get in and they don't think it was sexy on the commercial and it's not as sexy now because they realize that discipline and focus and action it takes. So, um, for sure, so you see that a lot coming through. What advice would you give someone who's starting out or who's just like, they're starting, what would you say? Like, if you had to give like one piece of advice, someone who's just starting out, what do you usually give somebody?
So the everything you need, all the information you need to become a successful real estate investor is available, and it's available at, you know, it's available. I'll just say this: it's available for free
Yep.
if you dig enough, right? I mean, we've shared some awesome, valuable information just in the past few minutes here, right? But I mean, if you think there's more that you need, I mean, you can get everything you. Now, for me, as I mentioned earlier, that may not be what you need psychologically. I I value when I pay for something, especially when I pay a lot for something, I value it even more, right?
Right.
So but but the but everything you need, all the information, all the inspiration, everything is available. There's lots of real estate investor networking clubs, education clubs, gurus, videos, books. I mean, that's not the challenge. That's not the problem. You know, so show up, you know, to your local real estate investor network club. Ours is DFW REI Club, dfwreiclub.com. If you just go there, just Google and go to that website, you'll find all kinds of great tools and information. No problem. And but there's others. If you don't like that one, or whatever, there's lots of opportunities. But get involved. Start asking questions. That's what I did in the beginning. I'd show up
Hmm.
over at Luby's, and it took me a while, but I was kicking tires. I'd paid some money. I was like, okay, I'm trying to navigate my way through this. And something finally clicked in my soul. I remember this clearly, you know, because I'm sitting across the table from people. This is not some class that I paid for or whatever. It's just other guys, just regular guys and I finally realized these guys are not smarter than me. They are not better looking than me. They are not anything except for they've been doing this a little longer than me, right? They're not trying to sell me anything, nothing. And they're helpful, they're nice, they're networking with me, they're answering my questions, right? And so that's when it clicked in my soul that if I will just listen and keep showing up and keep learning, I can do this. If these guys can do it, I dang sure can do it. And I will do it. And that's when that happened after a few meetings of going to those roundtable discussions over at Luby's Cafeteria in Fort Worth. Um, that's when I knew that success was a foregone conclusion at that time, and I just needed to put the plan together and put it into action, and we were going to get there. And I don't know that I'm at the end of my road, and I'm not saying I won't buy more property or anything like that, but I
Right.
mean, I usually don't talk this way, but I think we've had a pretty decent run, pretty decent success, right? And
Right.
again, it's humbling. This is not a brag, but it's kind of cool when your primary interest is, okay, how can I expand my influence now to help even more people,
Right.
right? Because there's nothing more fulfilling to me than if I'm sharing information basically just about what we've done and somebody else listens and they go, wow, cool, I could do that, right? And they take it and run with it like you and Misty have. Oh man, that's cool. I mean, I sit here, and I don't ask for thank yous or any other thing. I just sit back and watch and go, wow, that's so cool. And y'all aren't the first. There's other
Uh,
people that have grown up in our club, and now I call them up because I can see they've been successful. I'll call them up. Hey, would you like to come back and speak? And share your experience. And some of these guys are exceeding our success, and that's
mhm.
that's awesome.
That's
You know?
that's your reward as a coach. Just
Yeah.
even with jiu like, 'cause so, being a jiu-jitsu coach all those years, it was always when you see that one student who's kicking butt and taking names and you're like, or they go and open their own school, or they do something, man, I was a part of that. Like I got
Yeah.
to see that. So yeah, I totally makes sense. You're sharing that information with them and they take it and they run with it. It makes you, that's your reward. It makes you feel good,
Yeah.
and it is saddening when you see some who are like, they have a lot of potential and they stop. You're like, man,
Yeah.
but for all of the many of those happen, the ones that don't stop and the ones that succeed, it's what makes it worth it.
And it's a minority,
Yeah, it's
but
always a minority.
but I mean,
80-20.
in life in general, yeah, well, yeah, okay. I wish it was 80-20. I don't know if we have 80-20 or not, but I mean, it is definitely a minority. But even in
Yeah.
life, it's a minority of people really rock it in anything. It's a small number that are super successful at whatever they do. It's the nature of things, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, you try to pull people up, you try to bring them along, but some just won't come, and you just have to, again, not judge them, but just go, I'm not sure what's up there, but I'm going to keep looking for those who will hear it and will take hold of it and will take the action.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But man, Robin has been great. Guys, if you are new to real estate, you've heard this, or maybe you're just like, I don't know where to start, check out the DFWRI Club or check out the DFW REI Club. It's they meet right now, meet in Fort Worth. So everything been in Fort Worth for a while. You guys have always been in Fort Worth.
Right.
So
it's on the east side of Fort Worth. So we're DFW, right?
Yeah. I say that because it depends on when we listen. So, but it's and especially if you're local, don't get on Zoom. Go meet. It's worth it. It's the networks, the networking that you have is what I think is where it's the most valuable, because one thing I will say is when you go in there, you might have one person who does one section of real estate while, another person does this section, another person's good at this, another person's good at that. And everyone has their own deal and what they like to do. And it allows you to really grow because, I know when we first started going, it was because I wanted to learn more about wholesaling, but not to become a wholesaler. And then once I understood it, I was like, I don't really want to be a wholesaler, but I was able to understand the tools of what was needed from a wholesaler such as Robin, who, he was wholesaling for many years, and understood the game and able to do what I needed to do in case I was to come across that. So now when we write all our contracts, it's set up if I was to buy something to be able to wholesale it out just in case.
It's kind of the bluebell model. You're right.
Yeah.
We keep all we can or we eat all we can and we sell the rest, right? It's the
Absolutely.
same thing. Keep all the rentals I can, but I'll wholesale still, even to this day.
Yeah. As real estate agents, we've sold more people's property than our own. We've never sold any of our own stuff.
There you go.
In fact, we haven't sold any of our stuff at all. So, but we'll help sell someone else's. So, but no, definitely, thank you, Robin, for coming out. I'd love to have you back on some politics in real estate. I think that would be great because I know politics is a big deal, and it does matter. Politics and real estate go hand in hand, unfortunately, when especially if you're talking about retirement or rentals or real estate or any of that stuff, they do go hand in hand. So we'll probably bring Robin back on that one. I think that would be a fun one. He's got very good information, opinions, and on that topic as well, and of course, tons of other topics. So check out the DFW REI Club. So it's DFWREIClub.com.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
They meet every Saturday. So, from 9 to 12, so man, check them out. I think you guys would get a lot of great information. And heck, if you do, you probably even see me and Misty there, in the crowd.
If you look hard enough, you'll even find my phone number, and I don't mind if you call. Yeah.
Yeah, give him a call. So, Robin, thank you very much.
Yes,
Anything
sir.
else you want to add, or?
No, my pleasure. Just we're trying to help as many people as we can. So that's why I'm doing this. Because that's what life's about. So,
Fantastic,
yeah.
man. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Robin. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
You guys have a good one.
Cool.